Hey there friends, how's it going? I feel so formal wearing a tie and a hat on my channel, you know. Okay, enough with the tea time. What's the purpose of me recording this video? Well, do I have a confession for you people? So, as you already read the title, yeah, I usually do not do religion or politics or theology or anything like that on my channel. It's a creative channel, but I think this is long overdue. Okay, this is suffocating me. That's better. Yeah, today we are gonna find out if I am a Muslim with the taqiyya or not. Okay, first of all, let's go through the basics. What do you need to do? What do you need to believe in order to be a devout Muslim? Or to be a Muslim generally? What do you have to do in order to be a Muslim? First, denying the crucifixion and resurrection. The crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ of Nazareth is probably one of the most documented historical facts in all of history. Wow, that was a line if I've ever heard one. Even outside biblical sources, the historical sources do tell us that, yeah, Jesus was crucified by the Jews and the Romans for blasphemy. However, though, in Islam, Jesus was never crucified. He never was put onto the cross. According to Islamic theology, Allah, or, well, the God of Islam, changed someone else's appearance and, made him look like Jesus. So Allah took another person. And basically what Allah did is he changed the appearance, the facial features, the hair and all that. So he took another person and he changed him to make it look that if he was Jesus Christ of Nazareth. So in Islam, most sheikhs and imams say that it was probably Judas who Allah took, because Judas betrayed Jesus. So as a punishment, Allah took Judas and then changed his appearance into Jesus, and then Judas was put onto the cross instead of Jesus. This is what the Muslims believe. But there's a huge problem with that belief, and that is, isn't that deception? Now hear me out. So you're telling me that Allah took another person, made him appear like Jesus, and he was put onto the cross, and therefore that's why the Christians all around the world believe that Jesus died onto the cross? So you're telling me that Allah deceived billions of people? How interesting indeed. Okay then, let's look at the scriptures. So the Gospel of John was written fresh, and John, the beloved, was there at the site of the crucifixion, as well as Jesus' mother, Mary, or Maryam, was there at the time of crucifixion. So you're telling me that Allah tricked those two people too? And the normal Muslim response you'll get is something like this. Oh, you see, it wasn't trickery, it was just, Allah's plan, Allah Almighty, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. He changed the appearance of Judas and he made him look like Jesus, and there's nothing wrong with that. Allah saved Jesus and raised him up to himself, and Judas was crucified instead. There's nothing wrong with that. It was just Allah's plan. But here's the problem. Isn't that deception? Now hold on a second. Hold your horses. Okay, let's start. What is this in my hand right now? Looks like a fork to me, but hold on guys. This is not a fork. I know it looks like a fork, it sounds like a fork, but let me truly tell you that this is not a fork. This is actually a pen, or a pointer in this case. Allah is tricking you into thinking that this is a fork, but this is actually a pen. Gotcha. Allah basically did this. Allah said that this is Jesus, and the people were like, oh, this is Jesus, let's put him onto the cross, right? But in reality it was Judas. But there's a problem with that. Again, according to Islam, Allah is a divine deceiver who deceives billions of people, including the believers of the time, into thinking that Jesus died onto the cross, while in reality it was someone else, presumably Judas. So, according to Islamic theology, Allah is a divine deceiver? Well, there's only one way to find out. What does the Quran say about the crucifixion? It does mention that Jesus will die and Allah will raise him up. And Allah said this to him when he was a baby, according to the commentary of the Quran. So, in the Quran, nowhere does it say that Judas was onto the cross or someone else was onto the cross who was crucified. But the sheikhs and imams, they somehow believe that there was someone else onto the cross. So the Quran doesn't tell us that Judas was crucified instead of Jesus. So where do these sheikhs and imams get their information from? From where? If something is not in the Quran, why are you bringing it and making it a pure belief of your religion? If it's not in the Quran, Allah doesn't talk about it, Allah doesn't say that Judas was crucified on the cross, then why are you saying it? Talking about the sheikhs and imams of Islam. I'm talking about Islamic theology, by the way. If there's something not in the Quran, where are you guys bringing it from? Are you guys just pulling stuff out of thin air? Second thing to be a devout Muslim. The Torah and the Gospels are corrupted, and the Quran is the only perfectly preserved book we can follow. According to Islamic theology, the Torah and the Gospel are corrupted to the point where we cannot really take them as guidance. We have to follow the Quran if we have to follow any book at that point. So if we have to follow any book, it has to be the Quran. But again, there's a problem. So the Muslims say the original Torah and the Gospel, aka Injil, was revealed down to, Jesus, but over time it got corrupted and changed, and it doesn't exist anymore. Alright then. That's interesting. Because they say that, the Bible, which we have today, was something else back in the day, but it got so corrupted and, so changed that it's not even the same book anymore. It doesn't even exist. Again, this argument falls once you read the Quran. In the Quran, Allah tells, O Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, O Muhammad, tell the Jews and the Christians to judge by the Torah and the Gospel, which are revealed to them by their Lord. Hey, hold on, let me pull it up. There you go. Surah number 5, verse number 47. Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse number 47. So let the people of the Gospel judge by what Allah has revealed in it, and those who do not judge by what Allah has revealed are truly the rebellious. This is what the Quran says to the Christians, that if they do not judge by the Gospel, aka the book they have in their hands at the time of Prophet Muhammad, they are the rebellious. And well, at the time of Muhammad, the Christians, or aka the Christendom, was widespread. There were thousands and thousands of copies of the Bible, aka the Gospel. So according to the Quran, the Gospel, the Injil of the time of Muhammad was actually okay. It was actually a non-corrupted scripture which Allah affirmed himself. So when the Muslims claim that, the Injil, it got corrupted and it got so corrupted that it doesn't exist anymore, that argument falls because literally the Quran is telling us to judge by the Torah and the Gospel. Because the Quran is literally telling the Christians to judge by the Gospel. And you're telling me that out of thousands and thousands of copies of the Gospel which the Christians had in Rome and in other places at the time of Muhammad and the Byzantine Empire, you're telling me all those copies were corrupted at the time of Muhammad and the original Injil was lost? Well, according to the Quran itself, it was probably there. And if it was there in such large numbers, it is probably here, now, present. This argument that the Torah and the Gospel are corrupted to the point where you cannot even, take them as teachings to how to live your life. You cannot take them seriously. It's just that argument is false. And here's another thing for you. Nowhere in the Quran does it say that the Torah and the Gospels are corrupted. Nowhere. You can go search it up. No verse says that the Torah and the Gospels are corrupted. Nowhere in the Quran. But the Muslims say that, it is corrupted. It's lost in history. You're literally pulling information out of thin air. The Quran doesn't say that the Torah and the Gospel were corrupted. Yet our sheikhs and imams, they just pull information out of thin air. If the Quran doesn't say that the Torah and the Gospels are corrupted, who are you to say that they're corrupted? Isn't that the corruption of the Quran? You are putting words into the Quran which are not even there. The Torah and the Gospels are corrupted. Oh yeah? Well, show me where the Quran says it. Spoiler alert, it doesn't say it. Okay then. So this argument that the Torah and the Gospels are corrupted, it's a false argument because the Quran doesn't say that the Torah and the Gospels are corrupted. What the Quran does do is that it affirms the preservation, the inspiration, and the authority of the Torah and the Gospel. And the Quran itself describes that it's an affirmation of the previous scriptures that came before the Quran. But this is what the Muslims say. They say, you see, the Torah and the Gospels are corrupted. But the Quran is perfectly preserved because Allah actually promises us that, that He will protect the Quran from being corrupted. Okay, yeah. So in the Quran, Allah says that no one can change and corrupt the word of Allah. This is what Allah says in the Quran. Okay then. If you ask the Muslims, okay then, what were the Torah and what were the Injil? Were they the word of Allah? Yeah, they were the word of Allah. So according to Allah, no one can change His word. But apparently, even though the Torah and the Gospel were Allah's words, they got corrupted. Don't know how, don't know when, don't know why, but they got corrupted, even though they are Allah's words. So, saying that the Torah and the Gospels are corrupted, not only you are going against the Quran, you are calling Allah the worst of preservers. According to the Islamic theology, Allah, or God, failed to preserve his own word that he revealed down to the people before the Quran. Well, that's harsh. Another thing the Islamic theology teaches is that Quran is above the Bible in every single way. But according to the Quran itself, it's only a guardian and an affirmer of the scriptures that came before it. So the Quran says that it is a book which has been revealed to confirm the scriptures which was revealed before it. But here's the problem. Because not only does the Quran affirm the scriptures that came before it, it also contradicts those scriptures at the same time. For example, denying the crucifixion and resurrection. The Bible affirms it, but the Quran denies it. The Quran refuses the deity of Christ, and it says that Jesus is not the Son of God. But again, it contradicts with the scriptures, the previous scriptures that came before the Quran. It contradicts with the Bible. So if the Quran affirms the Bible, and it's the truth, that means that we have to judge by the Bible, and according to the Bible, the Quran is false, aka Islam is false. But if the Bible is corrupted, that again means that Islam is false, because in the Quran, Allah is telling the Christians to judge by a book that has been corrupted. So Allah is literally misleading Christians into judging by a book which is corrupted. So if the Bible is corrupted, that means that Allah is misleading people, therefore the Quran is false and Islam is false. But at the same time, if the Bible is true, that again means that the Quran is false, because it contradicts with the Bible. So either way, if the Bible is true, Quran is false, and if the Bible is false, that means Islam is false. Either way, Islam is false. The last thing I want to compare is the difference between Muhammad and Jesus. So there's this hadith of Muhammad about a few men that went to meet him, but they got sick, and he went to a guy and he told them that they should drink camel milk and camel urine, which was a kind of a medicine at that time, and they will feel better. And after they felt better, they stole the camel from the man, and they tried to run away, but then they got caught. They killed the owner of the camel, and they were trying to run away. People caught him, and they bought those thieves. They bought him to Muhammad for judgment. And Muhammad said, cut their arms from the opposite sides, put hot iron in their eyes, and leave them in a hot spot, aka a harah, until they die. So this is what Muhammad says. This is the judgment of Muhammad to those two people who were trying to steal the camel and who killed the owner of the camel. Muhammad told those two people that their arms should be cut, and hot iron should be poured into their eyes or shoved into their eyes, and they should be left in a hot spot, aka a haram, to die, basically. But this is what Muhammad's judgment was towards those people. Now compare this to Jesus. So Muhammad prosecuted that guy in a way. Now compare this to Jesus. So a few Pharisees brought a woman to Jesus, and they told Jesus that this woman has been caught committing the act of adultery. We should stone her until she dies. And what did Jesus tell them? Whoever among you who have not committed the act of adultery themselves shall cast the first stone. And because they were all sinners themselves, they all committed the heinous acts themselves, they all dropped the stones. So this is the difference between Jesus and Muhammad. While Muhammad prosecuted people, by torturing them, basically, while Muhammad ordered those people to be tortured and killed, Jesus simply forgave that woman. And again, there are many verses and hadiths which are enough to tell you that Muhammad didn't know what was going to happen to his followers. But if you compare it to Jesus, he literally told his followers that he was the truth and the life, and no one came to the Father except through him. So I think these are enough points for a single video for me to drive home the fact that I'm no longer a Muslim, I think. Yeah, I'm not. Because I don't believe in these lies. And I don't believe that the crucifixion and resurrection was just a mere trick from Allah. Because, well, according to Islam, God is a divine trickster, a deceiver. He doesn't know how to communicate, because when Allah clearly tells in the Quran to the Jews and the Christians to judge by the Torah and the Gospel, according to the Muslims, what he was actually trying to say is to not judge by the Torah and the Gospel. So according to the Muslims, Allah is not only a divine trickster, He is the worst of communicators of all time. He is the worst of preservers of all time because he failed to preserve the previous scriptures he revealed to the people before the Quran. And according to Islam, he will throw you into hell just for missing a single prayer. I'm not joking, it's literally a teaching. But I refuse to believe all this about God, therefore I'm not a Muslim. Do you want to know what I do believe in? Jesus, or Isa. He is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. He performed many miracles, miracles that no other mere prophet performed. And well, why did he perform them? Because he was not just a prophet. He was literally the manifestation of God here on earth. And that's what I believe. So there you go. This was long overdue, but I'm pretty sure I was able to tell you people why I'm no longer a Muslim. That's it. God bless y'all. Stay safe out there. I'll see you hopefully soon. Goodbye.